Right, let's talk about Siargao. What is it? Where is it? How do you get there? What's it like? Is it the next Canggu? Let's hope not. And importantly, should you go there? By the way, this is not Siargao, this is Cappadocia in Turkey. I would highly recommend coming here, but there'll be another video on that. Just a general note on the Philippines. I've been lucky enough to visit quite a lot of places, especially over the last 5 years. And the Philippines is by far the most naturally beautiful place I've ever been. There's immaculate beaches, palm trees for as far as the eye can see, and water that seemingly looks fake, especially the rivers. It looks like somebody's just poured food dye into it. Come to the Philippines for blue ass water. I'm usually very suspicious of videos that I see of, say, the pink beach in the Komodo Islands where the saturation has just been pumped up. But with the Philippines, the water genuinely looks like that. So if you're looking for a place that has incredible natural beauty, the Philippines is your place. The people in the Philippines are lovely, really happy. Basketball is their national sport, but actually karaoke is probably their national sport. It is not unusual to walk past a bar to see one person belting out songs by themselves. They love karaoke. Okay, so Siargao, it's on the eastern edge of the Philippines, to the point where if you're on an eastern beach and you look out, it is literally the Pacific Ocean. Next stop is the Americas. So for the majority of people, they'll be flying into Manila or Cebu and then flying from there to Siargao, usually an hour or 2-hour flight. The problem is that Siargao is really well known for surfing. Cloud9 is a surf break that sort of put it on the map. But especially from Cebu, the planes that you take are really small. So they put limits, or at least from what I read, they put limits on the amount of boards that you can take. So if you have multiple boards in a board bag, you might be over the limit. That's what I read. I actually spoke to a lot of people that had flown with multiple boards. I didn't want to take the risk, so I took the ferry from Cebu to Siargao and then a boat from Siargao to Siargao. It's a bit of a ball ache waiting for the ferry. It's late and there's loads of people. The ferry is overnight and there are beds, so you can sleep. You do get woken up at 5 AM and then you take a few hour ferry to Siargao. It is reasonably cheap. It's a lot cheaper than the flights. These are the slightly cheaper seats. If I didn't have my boards, I would fly. The flights are also relatively affordable, but that's how you get to Siargao itself. And most people stay in General Luna because it's close to Cloud9, close to the beaches. It's on the right side of the island, close to restaurants, bars, all of that stuff. So generally speaking, General Luna's the place you would want to go. When I arrived, I realized that, oh, it's not as built up as a Santa Teresa in Costa Rica or a Canggu in Bali. The facilities aren't quite the same. It's more expensive than you might think for accommodation compared to other places, but still not super expensive. One thing to note is that at least for British citizens, we only get a certain amount of time on sort of a visa on arrival. And because Siargao's, quite isolated, I was worried about visa extensions. Luckily enough, you can pay 3,000 pesos in Siargao and get your visa extended there. And it's super easy. I was really impressed by that. Generally speaking, getting things done in the Philippines is hassle-free, let's say. So as I said, Siargao was sort of put on the map by Cloud9, which is a surf break, so it became a sort of surf town. And over the years, I've seen a lot of comparisons between Siargao and Canggu in Bali. People saying, is it the next Canggu? I really hope it isn't, because especially over the last 3 years, Canggu has become some sort of dystopian hellhole. It is way too crowded. There's construction everywhere. They are just building as much as they can. Personally, I think that Bali has has suffered from its own popularity, and I hope that doesn't happen to Siargao. I do get the comparisons though, because it's a surf town, it's tropical, people do work remotely from there, but there are some key differences that I'll go into. By the way, throughout this video I keep on referencing Canggu, but actually a lot of the comparisons have been to Bali itself. The reason I say Canggu is because that's a place that's seen the largest growth, arguably, throughout Bali, and Bali is a pretty big place with various areas offering different things. So I guess the comparison videos have been talking about what Bali perhaps used to be. And I don't want to sound like, oh, 10 years ago it was awesome. You know, people always tend to say that, but I just thought I'd let you know that people are referencing Bali in general, and that Canggu is probably an example of when things become a bit too popular. Back to Siargao. So let's start off with the surf. Really easy to get to surf breaks. Cloud9 is literally just a paddle out from the pier. You do have to pay an entry fee for tourists. You can also get boats out to Rocky Point. You can go to Quicksilver, which is next to Cloud9. There's probably better videos summarising the actual surf there. It's beautiful. The waves are really good. Cloud9 is a trickier wave than I thought it would be. It's a lot slabbier. I never really got the hang of it. There's some photos of me surfing Cloud9. I don't even know what that is. Is it a turn? Is it a snap? Is it an air? I can't do a snap or an air, so it must be a turn, but it doesn't look like it, so what the fuck is going on? I just need to become a better surfer. Cloud9 has also become the first break to ban beginner surf lessons, which is good because it's definitely not a beginner wave. But there is something for everybody in Siargao. So really popular surf spot, and it's got the same sort of restaurant and bar feel as you would get in other surf towns. It's not just the surf as well. You have Sutton Cove. Again, I have a video on that. That's a great little day trip. There's Marsin River. There's a load of other spots that you can go to and explore, especially the north of the island as well. So whilst a lot of the action happens around General Luna and the Cloud9 area, it's not the be all and end all. And actually jump on a scooter and just go and explore. It's well worth it. And again, you just get to see sort of incredible scenery. I can't get over how nice it is. Renting scooters is really easy. I rented it through the place that I stayed. Beware that there are police checkpoints regularly along the road from General Luna to the Cloud9 area. So they'll want to see driving license and international driving license. Weirdly, and this isn't just those roadblocks, because they did it for the ferries as well. The police, the Coast Guard, whenever they're doing their checks, they film everything on their phone. I don't know whether it's because they need to prove that they are actually doing their job, or whether it's some other sort of Big Brother-esque thing. I don't know, but it was quite interesting to see that there would be 1 or 2 policemen doing the checks, and then an additional policeman filming it on their phone. If anybody knows the reason for that, let me know, but it seemed to be quite common for people in the public sector, let's say. A few other points to note. There is a skate park, looks really good. I didn't skate. You can rent skateboards, but for some reason I did a quick search of where the nearest hospital was, because skating tends to attract injuries, and it is nowhere near. If you had a bad injury there, you would probably be in for a terrible ride to the nearest hospital that will take many hours. So do that at your own peril. And another thing, there are chickens and roosters everywhere, not just in Siargao, in Cebu as well. So do not expect to have a lion. They're loud. At least the places that I stayed, I couldn't sleep in because the roosters would be up at dawn doing their thing. Bit of a weird one, but be prepared. One thing to note is that I had a bit of a bipolar experience in Siargao. First of all, I managed to pick up some sort of bug, which meant that I was on a strict do not go further than 50 meters from a toilet for a good 4 to 5 days. I won't go into any more detail, but it was like an exorcism. So that happened. And then also, whilst it was at the end of the season, the surf season, we had a number of typhoons come through. I was in Siargao for, I think, 5 or 6 weeks, and we had 2 weeks where it rained constantly. So that sort of put a damper on things a little bit. And then sort of the nail in the coffin was the fact that one of the undersea power cables to that area of the Philippines broke, which meant that for the last 2 weeks there wasn't any mains electrical power, which meant that everything ran on generators, and generators tend to break down because they're not designed to be running 24/7, and things deteriorated quite quickly because there wasn't any power, no aircon, no internet, and in those sorts of environments, most people were trying to get out quite quickly because there was no sign of it being restored. I bring that up not because it's an isolated case, because the year before they didn't have power for a number of months. And so if you're looking to work remotely from Siargao, it is not the same as working remotely from Canggu. One, the co-working spaces are way busier. If you want a meeting room, you'll have to book it 1 or 2 days before. They're very cramped, and there's only 1 or 2 on the island. The internet is not as quick. It doesn't have the infrastructure that, say, a Bali does, as much as I like to shit on Bali. So it makes things quite difficult if you are looking to live that sort of remote life from Siargao. I wouldn't recommend it personally. If you're looking for a place that's a surf town and you want to stay there for a while, surf, enjoy yourself, it's perfect. It's great. It is up there with the Santa Teresa's of the world where people will get stuck. I've spoken to enough people that have been traveling around the Philippines or Southeast Asia and end up getting stuck in Siargao. It has that sort of hold. Having said that, there's so many incredible options for traveling around the Philippines that it's not quite as sticky, because people want to go to El Nido, to Coron, they want to go to Cebu. If you do go into Cebu, go do Mualboal with a sardine run. You can watch my video on that. That's well worth doing. So whilst it is sticky, it's not quite as sticky as other places, I don't think. So yeah, to summarise Siargao, the good days were spectacular. The bad days were frustrating, let's say. Different experience for me because I had my bug that I picked up. We had rain for a couple of weeks and loads of wind, which made surfing pretty terrible. And then also the power cut. So if you don't have those 3 things, it's a great place. Is it the next Canggu? No. Hopefully it isn't. I really hope it isn't. I hope it keeps its sort of character. And it's amazing to see, because they had a typhoon come through a few years ago that caused incredible amounts of damage, and they've rebuilt really quickly. I just remembered something. I don't think it will become the next Canggu because it's harder to get to. You have to take an internal flight to get there. There isn't an international airport, and that infrastructure stuff is going to hold them back. In a good way, I think. I'm biased. I really hope it doesn't become as popular as other sort of surf towns. I think it's just a little bit too remote and doesn't have the same infrastructure. Admittedly, that can get built, but because you have to take an internal flight and there isn't an international airport, I think it will stop people from flocking there to the same extent as a Bali. Yes, the infrastructure can be annoying, especially when the power goes out. That seems to be a more regular occurrence than you would imagine. So actually the best way to put it is that it's great for a holiday, it's great for an extended stay if you just want to surf or relax on the beach. It's incredibly beautiful, but I wouldn't say it's a place for remote workers or digital nomads. Just the infrastructure and the internet and power, you're somewhat at the whim of the gods when it comes to having dependable internet and dependable power. Would I go there again? Absolutely. I really want to go back to the Philippines. There's a few things that I didn't go and do whilst I was there. And as I said, it's the most naturally beautiful place I've ever been. It looks like the postcards. I would highly recommend it. Hope that helps.